I've made countless mistakes in my life, but this one might actually be my last. My hands trembled violently as I typed out the message. I can't do this anymore. Goodbye. And pressed send before I could second-guess myself. But the number was wrong. My heart dropped into my stomach when the screen lit up with a single line. Stay where you are. I'm coming. Who was this? I'd meant to send that text to my ex, Russell, the man who abandoned me and our child the moment he discovered I was an Omega. But this reply, this was someone else entirely. Someone whose voice I could already imagine in my head. Powerful, commanding, dangerous. I stared at the phone screen again. The number was completely unfamiliar, not saved in my contacts. Panic crept up my throat like ice water. My 4-year-old son, Elmer, glanced up from his toys scattered across the worn carpet. Mom, are you okay? He asked, his innocent brown eyes searching my face with concern far beyond his years. Yes, sweetheart, I'm fine. I forced a smile, though internally I was crumbling into pieces. The rent was 3 weeks overdue. Bills covered every surface of our tiny kitchen counter, and I had maybe 2 days' worth of groceries left in the nearly empty cabinet. This goodbye text had been my final desperate attempt, a closing message to the man who deserved to know just how much damage he'd caused. But fate apparently had different plans. My phone started vibrating insistently in my palm. An incoming call from that same unknown number. I couldn't bring myself to answer it, but then another text flashed across the screen. Answer the phone, Omega. I can smell your fear from here. How did this person know I was an Omega? My scent blockers were top quality, freshly applied this morning like clockwork. My entire body went rigid with fear and confusion. Mom, why does your phone keep ringing? Elmer asked innocently, hugging his stuffed dinosaur tighter against his small chest. I swallowed hard and accepted the call with shaking fingers. Hey, hello? Where are you? The man's voice was deep and smooth like expensive velvet, but carried an edge of steel that sent shivers down my spine. An alpha's voice. There was no mistaking that kind of power. I don't know you, I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. This was a wrong number. I'm sorry. Wrong number? He let out a dark chuckle that traveled through the phone and straight into my bones. No, sweetheart, this was exactly the right number. Now tell me where you are before I trace this call myself. Every Omega instinct I possessed screamed at me to run, to hide, to protect myself and Elmer. But something else stirred beneath the fear, an inexplicable sense of safety, protection. What was happening to me? Look, I really don't know who you are. My name is Kadei, he interrupted, his voice dropping even lower. And you just sent me what appears to be a suicide note. So I'm going to ask you one more time, and I won't be this patient again. Where exactly are you, and are you safe? Suicide note? I'd only been trying to finally break free from my toxic ex, to officially say goodbye and close that chapter of my life. But Kate interpreted it as, oh God, no wonder he sounded so intense, so urgent. I'm fine, really. It was a mistake, I said quickly, trying to sound convincing even as my voice wavered. Your voice is shaking, your breathing is uneven, and I can practically hear your heartbeat racing through this phone, he stated matter-of-factly. That doesn't sound fine to me. Give me your address. I'm not going to let you go through whatever this is alone. You don't even know me. My voice cracked embarrassingly on the last word. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, I know you're scared. I know you're alone. I know you're standing at your breaking point. And I know exactly what it feels like to have absolutely no one. His voice softened by the smallest fraction. Text me your location. Let me help. Please. Elmer grabbed my free hand with both of his tiny ones. His small grip reminded me of everything I was fighting for. I couldn't give up. Not for him. Not when he needed me more than ever. But something in Cade's voice made me want to trust him despite every warning bell going off in my head. It made me want to believe that someone in this world actually cared whether I lived or died. And that terrified me more than anything else, because the last time I trusted someone with my heart, Russell had destroyed me completely. Against every logical thought screaming inside my mind, my fingers moved across the screen, typing out my address and hitting send. Good. Katie's voice came through, relief evident in his tone. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't go anywhere, Leon. Wait. How do you know my name? I asked, shock replacing some of the fear. Your caller ID, he explained simply. 20 minutes. Stay safe until then. The line went dead, leaving me standing in the middle of my rundown apartment, holding my phone and wondering if I just made the biggest mistake of my entire life, or somehow stumbled upon my only way out of this nightmare. Elmer tugged on my sleeve. Mom, who was that on the phone? Just someone who might be able to help us, I whispered, hoping I wasn't lying to both of us. I looked around our apartment, the peeling paint on the walls, the leak stains spreading across the ceiling that the landlord refused to fix, the eviction notice taped prominently to our ancient refrigerator. In 3 days, we'd be homeless. In 3 days, I'd have failed my son in the most fundamental way possible. Maybe this mysterious alpha showing up was the universe's way of giving us one last chance. Or maybe I was being incredibly naive and stupid, inviting a complete stranger into our lives based on nothing but a desperate text message and a compelling voice. I picked up Elmer and held him close, breathing in his familiar scent, baby shampoo and innocence. Whatever happened next, whatever Cade turned out to be, I would protect my son with everything I had left. The clock on the wall ticked away the minutes. 17 of them to be exact, before there was a knock at the door. Strong, confident, deliberate. My entire world was about to change, and I had absolutely no idea if it would be for better or worse. I took a deep breath and walked toward the door, toward the unknown, toward Caddy, toward whatever destiny had planned for us. 17 minutes exactly. I'd been counting because anxiety had turned me into a human stopwatch. The knock came at my apartment door with a force that demanded attention without being aggressive. Somehow, I knew exactly who it was. My entire body tensed as every omega instinct went on high alert. Elmer sat on our threadbare sofa watching cartoons, completely oblivious to the fact that his mother had just given a complete stranger their address without a second thought. I approached the peephole cautiously and looked through. My heart actually skipped a beat. Tall didn't even begin to describe him. He had to be well over 6 feet, with the kind of dangerous handsomeness you only see in magazines or movies. His black leather jacket fit him perfectly, emphasizing broad shoulders and a powerful build. His jawline looked sharp enough to cut glass, and those dark gray eyes seemed to look directly through the peephole, as if he knew precisely where I was standing. Alpha pheromones rolled off him in waves so strong that my scent blockers actually vibrated against my skin, crackling under the pressure. This wasn't just any man. This was power incarnate, danger wearing human skin. Control wrapped in expensive leather. I know you're watching me, Katie's voice rumbled through the door, carrying a hint of amusement. Open up before I actually do break this thing down, and trust me, your landlord won't appreciate the repair bill. I opened the door just a crack, keeping the chain lock firmly in place. Look, I appreciate your concern, but like I said on the phone, I'm fine. He pushed the door gently but firmly, not forcing it but making his presence impossible to ignore. Move the chain, Leon. I'm not here to hurt you. That's what they all say, I muttered under my breath, but found myself unlocking it anyway. Stupid omega instincts betraying my common sense. Kay stepped inside and suddenly my already tiny apartment felt microscopic. He didn't just enter the space, he filled it completely with his presence. Commanding, overwhelming, strangely protective. His gaze swept across the apartment, taking in every detail. The wallpaper peeling away from the walls, the water stain spreading across the ceiling, our pathetic refrigerator humming miserably in the corner. Overdue bills scattered across the counter like evidence of my failures. Then his eyes landed on me. Really looked at me, not just glanced. And something in his expression transformed completely, shifting from alpha predator to something unexpectedly gentle. You call this fine? His voice came out quieter now, almost pained. Who are you to come in here and judge my life? I responded defensively, crossing my arms even though I was wearing a faded hoodie with holes at the elbows. We're managing. We're surviving. Surviving isn't the same as living, Cade said, taking a step closer. He pointed directly at the eviction notice stuck to my fridge. And you have 3 days before you're not even surviving anymore. So don't stand there and lie to me when we both know the truth. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. I refused to cry in front of this stranger. What do you want me to say? That I'm drowning? That I don't know how I'm going to feed my son next week? Congratulations, you figured it out. I want you to let me help. His hand reached toward me but stopped midair, respecting my personal space. Please, uncle, who are you? Elmer appeared beside me suddenly, clutching his dinosaur and staring up at Cade with wide, curious eyes. Cade's entire demeanor shifted instantly. He crouched down to Elmer's eye level in a movement so careful and gentle that my breath caught in my throat. This dangerous alpha was making himself small and non-threatening for my child. Hey there, buddy. I'm Cade, he said softly, a genuine smile crossing his features. I'm a friend of your mom's. Is that your dinosaur? What's his name? Elmer blinked, processing this new person. Rex. He's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. You're really tall. Cade chuckled, a real warm sound that created an unexpected flutter in my chest. Yeah, I'm pretty tall, but Rex looks way scarier than me. Does he bite? Elmer giggled, warming up to him immediately. Yeah, roar. He made Rex attack Cade's outstretched hand playfully. Cade fell backward dramatically. Oh no, I've been defeated by the mighty Rex. Elmer laughed fully now, delighted, and I watched in complete shock as this intimidating stranger played along with my son as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Slowly, Cade stood back up and faced me, his expression turning serious once more. Pack a bag. Both of you are coming with me. Excuse me, I said, shock making my voice sharp. I'm not going anywhere with you. You're literally a complete stranger. You have no food, no money, an eviction notice hanging over your head, and based on that text message, no support system whatsoever, he stated calmly as if reciting facts from a report. And your ex isn't helping either, is he? Russell hasn't sent a single dollar, has he? My blood turned to ice. How do you know his name? I made some calls during my drive over here, Cade admitted without hesitation. Checked a few things. Leon Hayes, 26 years old, Omega, single parent. Your ex-partner Russell Hayes abandoned you when you were 6 months pregnant. No family support network. 3 different jobs in the past year, all minimum wage. Am I missing anything important? I felt violated and terrified in equal measure. Who the hell are you? Are you some kind of stalker? I'm someone with resources, he answered simply, and I'm someone who refuses to let people suffer when I have the power to help them. Especially not someone desperate enough to send that kind of text message. I already told you it was meant for Russell, and that somehow makes it better. Cade's voice rose slightly for the first time. The fact that you were saying goodbye to your toxic ex means you're not in crisis? Leon, actually think about what you're saying right now. Elmer tugged on my sleeve, sensing the tension crackling in the air between us. Mom, I'm hungry. Is there anything to eat? My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I'd given him the last of our cereal this morning for breakfast. There was literally nothing left for dinner. Cade saw my expression and his jaw clenched visibly. He pulled out his phone immediately. What does Elmer like? Pizza? Burgers? We can't accept. I'm not asking for permission. He was already dialing. Pepperoni or cheese, Elmer? Pepperoni. Elmer jumped up excitedly. Stop, I said firmly, finding my voice. Cade, just stop. You can't just barge into our lives like this. He lowered his phone and looked at me, really looked at me, with those intense gray eyes. You're absolutely right. I can't force you to do anything, but I can offer. One night, come to my place, let me feed you both, give you a safe place to sleep without worrying. Tomorrow morning, if you want to leave, I'll bring you right back here. No strings attached, just, let me do this one thing. Why? My voice cracked again. Why do you even care about us? Cade was quiet for a long moment. Then, because 5 years ago I was exactly where you are right now. Rock bottom, completely alone. No one helped me. I had to claw my way out myself. And I swore that if I ever had the chance to be that help for someone else, I wouldn't waste it. The sincerity in his eyes was completely undeniable. And I was so tired, so utterly exhausted from fighting this battle alone every single day. Elmer looked up at me with hopeful eyes. That broke my heart. Mom, can we go? Please? Uncle Cade seems really nice. And there's pizza. I looked between my son and this mysterious alpha who somehow felt like safety despite being a complete stranger. One night, I finally whispered. Just one night. Cade's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. One night. That's all I'm asking for. But something in his eyes told me that one night was going to change absolutely everything. Cade's car was a sleek black Mercedes, the kind I'd only ever seen in movies or driving past me on the highway. Elmer was pressed against the backseat window, providing excited commentary for every building we passed. "Mom, look how tall that one is. Mom, look at all those lights." We entered the most exclusive area of the city, where buildings reached toward the sky and streets were pristine clean. My stomach twisted with discomfort and growing suspicion. Who exactly was this man? What do you do for work?" I asked hesitantly, trying to sound casual. Cade's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Business. What kind of business?" I pressed, needing actual answers, the kind where I ask the questions instead of answering them. He said, his tone final but not unkind, "At least not yet. Trust takes time to build, Leon." Red flag. Huge, waving red flag. But my stupid Omega brain was too busy noticing how intoxicating his scent was. Sandalwood mixed with something darker and more dangerous, like gunpowder and rain. A lethal combination. We descended into an underground parking garage, beneath a towering glass building, the space nearly empty except for luxury vehicles worth more than I'd earn in 10 years. A private elevator took us directly to the penthouse level. When the doors slid open, my jaw literally dropped. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire glittering cityscape. Marble floors were polished so perfectly I could see my reflection. Modern art pieces that probably cost more than my entire lifetime earnings hung on the walls. Minimalist furniture that screamed wealth without even trying. "Whoa!" Elmer squealed and ran inside immediately, holding his Rex dinosaur in a flying pose. "Elmer, be careful." I started to chase after him, but Cade's hand gently caught my wrist. "Let him explore," he said softly. "Everything here is either bolted down or fully insured. He can't break anything that matters to me." "You don't know that. He's 4 years old. Basically a tiny tornado with legs, then let the tornado spin freely." Cade smiled. "He's completely safe here. I promise you that." "You keep making promises to people you barely know," I pointed out, pulling my wrist away and trying to ignore the electric sparks his touch left behind on my skin. "You're not a stranger anymore," he said simply. "You're Leon, mother to Elmer, an Omega who's been through absolute hell and is still standing. That's not a stranger, that's on worth knowing." I didn't know how to respond to that level of directness, so I simply followed him deeper into the penthouse. The kitchen looked like a chef's fantasy, fully stocked with top-of-the-line appliances. An island counter bigger than my entire previous kitchen space. "Make yourself comfortable," Cade said, removing his jacket to reveal a crisp black shirt underneath. "Pizza should arrive in about 20 minutes. There's juice in the fridge for Elmer. Wine if you'd like some, or I can make fresh coffee." "Why are you really doing all of this?" I interrupted, needing actual answers. "And please don't give me that 'I've been there' speech again. Normal people don't just rescue complete strangers off the street." Cade leaned against the counter, studying me carefully. "You're right. They don't. But that text message you sent." He paused, choosing his words. "It reminded me of the worst of my life. The night I was ready to give up on everything, and someone pulled me back from that edge. Didn't ask questions, didn't judge me, just existed for me when I needed it most desperately." "Who was it?" I asked softly. "Someone I can never repay," he said, his voice distant with memory. "So maybe this is how I repay the universe instead, by being that person for someone else who needs it." Before I could formulate a response, Elmer came running back into the kitchen. Mom, there's a huge television and an entire room completely full of toys. Can I play with them? Please?" Cade crouched down to his level again. "All those toys are for guests, buddy. You can play with whatever you want. But first, how about we eat that pizza when it arrives, okay?" Elmer hugged Cade suddenly, completely unexpectedly. I watched Cade freeze for half a second before carefully returning the embrace, and something deep in my chest cracked wide open. This man, this mysterious, wealthy, possibly dangerous man, was being so incredibly gentle with my son. Later that night, after Elmer had fallen asleep in the massive guest room, which had its own bathroom larger than our old apartment's bedroom, Cade and I sat outside on the balcony, City lights twinkled far below us, like fallen stars, and the night air felt crisp but not uncomfortable. "He's a wonderful kid," Cade said quietly, handing me a glass of wine. "You've done an incredible job raising him." "I've done what I had to do," I said, accepting the glass. "Single parenting isn't really a choice, it's just survival mode every single day." "Russell actually left you while you were pregnant?" The way he said Russell's name was laced with pure disgust. I nodded, shame burning through me even though I knew logically it wasn't my fault. "We were together for 2 years. I genuinely thought he loved me, but when I finally told him I was an omega, I'd been hiding it, using suppressants religiously, wearing blockers constantly. He completely fell apart. Said he didn't sign up for being with one of them. I found out I was pregnant exactly 1 week after he left." "He's worse than just an idiot," Cade said darkly. "He's a complete coward. You don't have to—" "I mean every word." Cade turned to face me fully. "You carried a child completely alone, gave birth alone, raised that child alone while working multiple jobs, and barely surviving day to day. That's weakness, Leon. That's warrior-level strength. Any alpha would be genuinely honored to have someone like you." My heart raced traitorously in my chest. "Kid, who are you really? And don't just say business again. I need to know what I've walked into here, for Eller's sake, if not my own." He remained quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city lights. Then, "I've done things I'm not proud of. Built an empire on fear and control and methods most people would call dark. I'm not a good person by most conventional standards." "Mafia?" I whispered the word. He didn't confirm or deny directly. "Let's just say I operate in very gray areas. Extremely gray." My hands trembled slightly against the wine glass. "Should I be scared of you, of me personally?" "Never." His hand covered mine, warm and surprisingly steady. "I would burn this entire world to ashes before I let anything happen to you or Elmer. But my world, it's complicated in ways you can't imagine. Dangerous people exist in it constantly. Then why bring us into it at all?" "Because the exact second you sent that text to my number, wrong or not, something fundamental shifted inside me." He admitted, his voice raw with honesty. "I felt protective, responsible, like the universe was somehow giving me a chance to do something genuinely right for once in my life. That's not a good enough reason to completely uproot our lives." "Then how about this instead?" he interrupted, looking directly into my eyes with burning intensity. "I haven't felt anything real in 5 years. No genuine connection, no purpose beyond accumulating more power. But today, meeting you, meeting Elmer, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever." "What?" I breathed. "Hope," he whispered. The air between us became charged with electricity. His thumb traced slow circles on my hand, and I knew I should pull away from this dangerous intimacy. But I physically couldn't make myself move. "Stay," he murmured. "Not just tonight. Stay here until you figure out your next move. No pressure, no expectations attached. Just, let me help you get back on your feet properly. Please." Every logical part of my brain screamed danger at maximum volume. But my heart, my exhausted and desperately lonely heart, whispered a single word back. "Maybe. I'll think about it seriously," I finally said. Cade smiled, genuinely smiled, and it completely transformed his entire face. "That's all I'm asking for right now." But as I lay in the impossibly comfortable guest bed that night, with Elmer curled peacefully beside me for the first time in months, I knew the absolute truth. I was already in far too deep to walk away now. 5 days had passed since I'd moved into Kai's penthouse, and against all my better judgment I was settling in. A routine had formed naturally. Kai left early for business meetings while I made breakfast with Elmer. Afternoons were spent with my son playing with his new toys while I browsed job listings online. Mostly to feel productive, though I suspected Kai knew I was just keeping busy. The strangest part was how Kate had enrolled Elmer in the city's best private school, without even asking me first. He'd simply presented me with the acceptance letter over coffee one morning. I was still processing whether that gesture represented genuine care or subtle control. Maybe both. Evenings developed their own rhythm. Kay would return home exhausted, but his face would transform the moment he spotted Elmer. My son had started running to greet him with shouts of excitement, and Kay would lift him effortlessly, asking detailed questions about his day with what seemed like authentic interest. But nights revealed a different side of him. He'd disappear into his home office, and through the heavy door I'd catch fragments of conversations I definitely wasn't meant to hear. Handle it quietly. I don't care about the cost. Make the problem disappear completely. The word mafia haunted my thoughts more with each passing day. Yet I had no concrete proof, and truthfully, part of me actively avoided seeking confirmation. Because if I found definitive evidence, I'd be forced to leave. And leaving meant returning to that nightmare apartment, to constant struggle, to watching Elmer's face when there wasn't enough food. It was Tuesday afternoon when everything shattered. Elmer was napping peacefully in his new bedroom, and I was unnecessarily wiping down the already spotless kitchen counters. Kate employed housekeeping staff, but I needed to feel useful somehow when the doorbell rang. Kate was across town at some business lunch. The housekeeping staff had their own keys. Nobody should be ringing this doorbell. I checked the intercom screen and my entire world stopped spinning. Russell, my ex-partner. Elmer's biological father. The man who'd walked away without a backward glance when I needed him most. He stood in the building lobby, somehow having bypassed security, smirking directly at the camera with that familiar expression of entitled arrogance. My hands began trembling uncontrollably. How had he found this address? How had he gotten past the security desk downstairs? The intercom crackled to life. Lon, I know you're watching this screen. Open the door. We have important matters to discuss. Every instinct screamed at me to ignore him, to immediately call Cade, to do literally anything except what I actually did, which was unlock the penthouse door, step into the hallway and face him directly. What do you want? My voice emerged steadier than the panic churning inside me. Russell looked unchanged. Superficially handsome in that manufactured way, wearing an expensive suit that was clearly new, that same patronizing smile that used to make me feel worthless. Is that how you greet your son's fare? You forfeited that title, I said coldly. Real fathers don't abandon their children. Mere semantics. He waved dismissively, his eyes scanning the luxurious hallway. Impressive place you've landed in. Well, not technically yours, your wealthy benefactors. I'm actually impressed, Leanne. Never thought you possessed the skills to trap someone with genuine money. Rage ignited in my chest. Leave immediately. Not until we have our conversation. He moved closer and I instinctively retreated. You see, I've been doing considerable thinking lately. Made some errors in judgment. I'll admit that much. But I'm prepared to be involved in Elmer's life now. Now? I nearly shouted before remembering Elmer sleeping nearby. You want involvement now? After abandoning us for 4 years? Better late than never arriving. Russell shrugged carelessly. Besides, I've genuinely turned things around. Secured excellent employment. Achieved financial stability. Children require their fathers, Leon. Surely even you can acknowledge that basic truth. You have zero rights regarding him. Actually, Russell extracted folded papers from inside his jacket. I possess legal rights. Custody petition formally filed yesterday. Court appearance scheduled 3 weeks from now. My world tilted dangerously. The documents shook in my trembling grip as I read. Joint custody demands. Visitation rights enforcement and a section specifically citing unstable living arrangements with the current guardian. You can't. My voice fractured. You can't steal him from me. I'm not stealing anyone. Russell replied with manufactured sympathy. I'm fulfilling parental responsibilities. Although, his eyes gleamed with calculated cruelty. We could make all of this vanish completely. What exactly do you want? $50,000. Cash payment. Then I withdraw this petition entirely. Disappear permanently from your lives. Sign away all parental rights forever. Clean termination. He smiled as though proposing something reasonable. Seems more than fair, doesn't it? I don't have anywhere near that amount. No, but your affluent boyfriend certainly does. Russell glanced toward the penthouse door. Cade Rivera, correct? Yes, I conducted thorough research myself. Extremely wealthy individual. Very well connected in certain circles. 50,000 represents pocket change to someone like him. This constitutes extortion. This represents a father seeking appropriate compensation for permanently relinquishing his son. Russell corrected smoothly. Perfectly legal when framed correctly. So what's your decision, Leon? Pay the sum or prepare to share 30 with me. Your choice entirely. He departed, simply walked away casually as though he hadn't just demolished my entire world, and I collapsed against the wall with papers scattered around me, sobs choking silently from my chest so I wouldn't disturb Elmer. That's how Cade discovered me 2 hours later. He'd returned home early for reasons unexplained, taking the private elevator directly up, emerging into the hallway to find me still crumpled on the floor, crying soundlessly to avoid waking my son. Leon? He was beside me instantly, hands impossibly gentle on my shoulders. What happened here? Are you injured? I couldn't form words. Simply handed him the custody papers with violently shaking hands. I watched his expression transform as he read, initial confusion shifting to comprehension, then morphing into something dark and genuinely terrifying I'd never witnessed before. His entire body became rigid, jaw clenched so tightly I could hear his teeth grinding together. Where is he right now? Cade's voice emerged, barely human, glacially cold, lithally calm, absolutely terrifying. He left already, I whispered. Cade, he's demanding $50,000 or he'll take Elmer away. He won't succeed. Cade stood abruptly, extracting his phone. Cade, please don't do something. Something what precisely? He looked at me and I saw it clearly now. The monster people whispered about in fear. The man who'd built an empire on pure terror. Something illegal? Something violent? I crossed those lines years ago. Leon, I'm so far past them they're not even visible anymore. I refuse to let you destroy your life for us. Too late for that. His voice thundered through the hallway, then immediately softened when he noticed me flinch backward. He crouched down quickly, cupping my face with surprising gentleness, despite the volcanic rage burning in his eyes. I'm sorry. I apologize for frightening you, but you need to understand something crucial. You and Elmer exist under my protection now, and I absolutely refuse to let anyone threaten what belongs to me. We don't belong to you, don't you? His forehead pressed against mine, breathing ragged and uneven. Tell me honestly right now. Tell me you don't feel this connection between us. Tell me you genuinely want to leave, and I'll let you walk away this instant. But if you stay, if you choose to remain here, then you're mine to protect. Completely and absolutely. My breath caught sharply. What are you planning to do to Russell? Nothing permanently damaging, Cade said, though his smile turned predatory and dangerous. Just convince him persuasively that withdrawing this petition serves his best interests, particularly his health interests. Cade, trust me, he interrupted firmly. Please, just this one time, trust me to handle this situation properly. I searched those dangerous, beautiful, fiercely protective eyes, and found myself nodding slowly. Okay, I whispered. He kissed my forehead tenderly, then stood and walked purposefully toward his office, phone already at his ear. I heard him clearly through the door. Marcus, I need complete information on Russell Hayes. Everything that exists. And I need it delivered within 1 hour. Then, and dispatch Victor immediately. We have a problem requiring urgent resolution. I remained sitting on that hallway floor, wondering if I'd just negotiated terms with the devil himself. But if the devil was the only one willing to fight for my son, then maybe hell wasn't such a terrible destination after all. 3 days later, Russell's custody petition vanished mysteriously from the court system. Not officially withdrawn, completely erased. As though it had never existed at all. Russell himself? He fled the city entirely. Apparently received some incredible job opportunity in another state, packed his belongings overnight, and sent one final text to my old phone number. You win this round. I'm gone. Don't attempt contact. I didn't ask Cade any questions about what happened. Some things are better left unknown. But the overwhelming relief was indescribable. Elmer was safe, completely mine. Legally and permanently secured. Cade said nothing about the situation either. Simply came home that evening, lifted Elmer into his arms and suggested, how about we celebrate properly? Ice cream for dinner tonight? Elmer had screamed his enthusiastic agreement. And just like that, the nightmare evaporated. But something fundamental shifted between Cade and me following that incident. Something profound and undeniable. He became more present in ways I couldn't ignore. More openly affectionate without hesitation. His hand would linger possessively on my lower back when we walked together. He'd inhale the scent of my hair when he thought I wasn't paying attention. His eyes tracked my movements constantly, radiating protection and ownership. And my omega instincts? They screamed relentlessly. Mate, mate, mate. I tried desperately to ignore those primal urges. Attempted to rationalize that these feelings were simply gratitude, merely security, absolutely anything except what they actually represented. Attraction. Deep, undeniable, absolutely terrifying attraction. 1 week later, Elmer fell asleep unusually early after an exhausting school field trip. Kate and I found ourselves alone on the balcony, wine glasses in our hands, city lights glittering endlessly below us. "You've stopped asking about my work," Katie observed quietly. "Because I'm terrified of the answers," I admitted, sipping wine carefully. "And because I genuinely don't want to know yet." "Not fully." "That's probably wise." He smiled sadly. "But you deserve complete honesty, especially at this point." "Then be honest." I turned to face him directly. "Tell me who you really are, Katie. No more partial truths or careful omissions." He took a long, measured breath, setting down his wine glass. "I run a syndicate, weapons trafficking, information brokering, protection rackets, offshore financial accounts. I control approximately half the underground business operating in this city. Politicians, police officers, judges, I have them all securely in my pocket." He paused deliberately. "I'm not a good man, Leon. I've hurt people deliberately. I've killed people when circumstances required it." The honesty was brutally clinical, and somehow I respected it far more than comforting lies would have been. "Have you?" I swallowed hard. "Have you ever killed innocent people?" "Never." His answer came immediately, absolutely firm. "I maintain strict rules, lines I refuse to cross under any circumstances. But I won't pretend my hands are clean. They're permanently stained and they'll never be pure again." "Why tell me this now?" I whispered. "Because if you genuinely stay, if you truly remain here, not just temporarily hiding, you need to understand what you're choosing," he said, eyes intensely focused on mine. "My world contains real danger. Pabi will attempt to use you, hurt you deliberately, to reach me. Enemies exist constantly. Threats are perpetual. And I can protect you. I swear on my life I can. But you must decide if that's a life you can accept. And if I choose to leave," my voice barely audible, pain flashed across his features. Raw, genuine pain. "Then I'll release you. Establish you somewhere safe, far from this city, ensure you and Elmer have everything necessary. And I'll never contact you again. Ever." Silence stretched between us, heavy with possibility and irreversible choice. "Elmer requires stability," I finally said. "He needs a consistent father figure. Someone reliable." "I can be that person," Cade responded immediately. "I desperately want to be that. In a world where people die simply for associating with you," I challenged directly. "In a world where I'm powerful enough that nobody would dare harm what belongs to me." He countered intensely. "Leon, I'm not asking you to walk blindly into danger. I'm asking you to step into the safest possible position, directly by my side. You can't guarantee absolute safety. Nobody possesses that power." "You're absolutely correct," he admitted. "But I can promise I'll die before allowing anything to harm you or Elmer." "That's not romantic rhetoric. That's factual certainty. You're mine now, whether you consciously accept it or not. And I protect what's mine with absolutely everything I possess." "Yours?" The word sent electricity through my entire body. "I'm not property you own, Kate." "No," he agreed, moving substantially closer. "You're infinitely more than that. You're everything I never knew I needed. Everything I thought I could never deserve." His hand cupped my cheek tenderly, thumb tracing my jawline, and my omega body betrayed me completely, leaning into his touch instinctively, craving more contact. "I want you to stay here," he murmured, face inches from mine. "Not as a temporary guest, not as someone I'm charitably helping, but as mine. My omega. My partner. My family." "Teddy." My resolve crumbled like sand. "I know this is incredibly fast. I know my world is severely damaged. I know I don't deserve someone like you," he continued, voice raw with emotion. "But I've never wanted anything more intensely in my entire life. You make me want to become better." You and Elmer, you're my reason to continue fighting, to build something meaningful instead of merely powerful. What exactly are you asking? I breathed. Stay with me, not because you have nowhere else available, but because you want this. Want us together? His lips hovered over mine. Say yes, Leon. Please. Every logical thought screamed warnings. But my heart, my exhausted and desperately lonely heart, screamed yes. I started, but he kissed me before I could finish. Desperate. Claiming. Absolutely perfect. His lips moved against mine like he was starving. One hand tangling in my hair while the other pulled me flush against his body. My omega body surrendered instantly, melting into his alpha strength, craving this connection I'd been denying for weeks. When we finally broke apart, breathless, he pressed his forehead to mine. Say it, he whispered roughly. Say you're mine now. I'm yours, I heard myself whisper back. We're both yours. Something primal flashed in his eyes. Possession, satisfaction, triumph. Mine, he growled softly, kissing me again, slower this time, infinitely deeper, and I felt it, that invisible bond between Alpha and Omega. Not officially marked, but completely undeniable. We were already too far gone to turn back now. That night, tangled in his bed after he'd carried me there while kissing away every weak protest, I traced random patterns on his chest and asked quietly, what happens now? Now? Kate's arm tightened around me, protectively. Now I make everything official. Court documents. Legal adoption papers for Elmer if you'll permit it. Security arrangements. Everything necessary. You're not just staying in my house temporarily. You're becoming my family, officially and permanently. Adoption? My voice cracked emotionally. I want to be his father in every way that matters, Cade said seriously. Not replacing Russell, completely erasing him. Elmer deserves a father who'll actually be present, and I want it to that person. If you'll allow me, tears slipped down my cheeks. He already calls you Papa Kade when he thinks we're not listening. Cade's breath hitched sharply. He does? I nodded against his chest. Then it's settled, he whispered, kissing my hair tenderly. I'm his father. You're my Omega. And this family is mine to protect forever. Forever is an extremely long time, I murmured. Not nearly long enough, he replied, and wrapped securely in his arms, feeling safer than I'd ever felt in my entire existence. I finally believed him completely. Wrong number? No, this was destiny correcting its course. 6 months later, Papa Cade, Mama Leon, look what I built, Elmer shouted from the shoreline, pointing proudly at his lopsided sandcastle decorated elaborately with collected shells. Papa Cade, Mama Leon. The names had evolved naturally, beautifully, perfectly into our daily lives. We were at a private beach. Cade's property, completely secured, just the three of us and the endless ocean. Elmer constructed sandcastles with the serious dedication of an architect while Cade and I observed from our beach chairs, fingers intertwined comfortably. Life had transformed beyond recognition. Elmer was thriving spectacularly in school, making genuine friends, laughing constantly. I'd started online classes, business management at Cade's suggestion, and surprisingly discovered I excelled at it. Cade's world remained dangerous and complicated. But he kept his promise faithfully. We were untouchable, protected, completely safe. It's absolutely perfect, sweetheart. I called back to Elmer. The best castle I've ever seen. Cade squeezed my hand gently. He's genuinely happy. Yeah, I smiled. He really is. And you? Cade turned to look at me, those gray eyes soft with emotion. Are you happy, Leon? I thought about it carefully, really examined my life. 6 months ago, I was broken, desperate, utterly alone. Now, I possessed everything I'd never dared to dream about. Yeah, I whispered. I'm completely happy. Good. Cade stood suddenly, pulling me up with him. Because I have something important to ask you. Cade, he dropped to one knee in the sand and my heart stopped beating completely. From his pocket he extracted a ring, simple platinum band with a single perfect diamond. Elegant and understated. Not flashy or ostentatious. Just, Leon Hayes, Cade said, voice steady despite the emotion flooding his eyes. 6 months ago, you accidentally sent me a text message that changed my entire world irrevocably. You gave me purpose, family, a reason to become better than the monster I'd been. You let me love your son as my own. You trusted me with your heart despite every logical reason not to. Tears were already streaming down my face uncontrollably. I know my world is complicated. I know I'm not the safest choice or the smartest choice available. But I promise you, every single day for the rest of my life, I will protect you fiercely, cherish you completely, fight for you endlessly. You and Elmer are my everything. He paused, voice cracking with emotion. Marry me. Let me make this official. Let me be your alpha, your husband, Elmer's legal father. Please. Say yes. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe properly, just nodded frantically, sobbing. Yes? 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 Oh God, yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger, perfect fit as though it was always meant to be there, and stood pulling me into a kiss that tasted like salt water and promises and forever. Elmer came running over suddenly. Mama's crying. Kid, did you make Mama sad? Cade laughed genuinely, scooping him up effortlessly. Happy tears, buddy. Mama said yes to something very important. Yes to what? Elmer asked innocently. Yes to us being a real family forever, I managed to say through tears. Cade is going to be your papa officially. And my husband. Elmer's eyes went huge with excitement. Really? Papa Cade officially? Really, Cade confirmed, voice thick with emotion. Yes. Elmer hugged us both enthusiastically, and we stood there, three broken pieces that somehow fit together perfectly, wrapped in each other while waves crashed rhythmically behind us. That night, after Elmer fell asleep exhausted from excitement, Cade and I lay in bed together, my head resting on his chest, ring catching moonlight beautifully. Thank you, I whispered. For what exactly? For finding me? For saving us? For choosing us? Leon. Cade tilted my chin up gently. You saved me equally, maybe more substantially. Before you, I was just existing, building power for power's sake alone. Now I have a genuine reason, a purpose beyond money and control. What's that? Giving you and Elmer the life you both deserve, he said simply. Being the man you both need. That's my purpose now. My only purpose. I love you, I said, meaning it with every cell in my body. I love you more, he whispered back. Both of you. Forever. As I drifted towards sleep, safe in his arms, I thought about that text 6 months ago. The wrong number that became so perfectly right. Destiny had a strange way of working. I'd sent a goodbye into the void, desperate and broken. And the universe sent me Katie, my alpha, my protector, my home. Life wasn't perfect. Katie's world still contained dangers. Threats occasionally surfaced. But he handled them before they ever touched us. And slowly I stopped fearing his world and started trusting his protection completely. Because this wasn't just survival anymore. This was living. Thriving. Love. Wrong number? No. This was always meant to be my number. My alpha. My family. My forever. The morning after our beach proposal, I woke to find Cade already awake, watching me with an expression of such tenderness it made my chest ache. What are you thinking? I asked softly. That I'm the luckiest man alive, he replied. That I get to wake up next to you every morning. That Elmer calls me Papa. That somehow, against all odds, you said yes. Of course I said yes. I smiled. You're everything I never knew I needed. He kissed me slowly, thoroughly, until Elmer's voice interrupted us from the doorway. Are you guys being gross again? He asked, giggling. Extremely gross, Katie confirmed, pulling Elmer onto the bed between us. Get used to it because we're going to be gross forever now. Forever and ever? Elmer asked. Forever and ever, I confirmed, and wrapped in the arms of my alpha and our son. I knew with absolute certainty that this was where I belonged. This was home. This was family. This was love. The wrong number had led me exactly where I needed to be.